HBO Home Video presents two explosive new boxing videos, The Kings of the Ring and Emmy Award-winning Sonny Liston, The Mysterious Life and Death of a Champion. First, The Kings of the Ring takes you behind the scenes and past the hype for an in-your-face look at world heavyweight champions. From Jess Willard to Mike Tyson, The Kings of the Ring uses rare archival footage and exclusive interviews to tell the story of the men who've made boxing history. Next, the life story of the King of the Beast is detailed in Sonny Liston, The Mysterious Life and Death of a Champion, the troubled tale of a boxing legend who had to fight for everything his whole life until his mysterious and still unexplained death. The Kings of the Ring and Emmy Award-winning Sonny Liston, The Mysterious Life and Death of a Champion. Join HBO Home Video's lineup of premier boxing videos, including Boxing's Best, the definitive boxing video series.
A pulverizing right to the joint.
Featuring Jack Dempsey, Rocky Marciano, Joe Louis, and Muhammad Ali.
I'm the king of the world.
Plus, Boxing's Best is now available in a special Knockout Collector's Edition, the Champions Collection. But the action doesn't stop there. Complete your library with these other power players. The Middleweights.
The best fighter of all time, the middleweight champ, Sugar Ray Robinson.
The Heavyweights, featuring the Big Punchers.
A crashing right by Lewis, and Ramage goes down.
And the Heavyweights featuring the Stylists.
There will be a killer and a thriller and a killer when I get the gorilla in Manila.
And finally, boxing's greatest champions.
A devastating 1-2 combination.
Relive the greatest moments in boxing with Boxing's Best, the definitive boxing video series. Plus, The Kings of the Ring and Sonny Liston, The Mysterious Life and Death of a Champion. Own the entire series today or build your own collection tape by tape, starting with our special collector's edition, The Champions Collection. Available now only from HBO Home Video.
Hi, everybody. Kurt Gowdy. Welcome, Boxing's Greatest Champions. Today, the middleweight division, the greatest middleweights of all time in action. And our guest is going to be Floyd Patterson, the youngest man to ever win the World Heavyweight Championship and the only man, the first, to ever regain the heavyweight title. Floyd, the middleweight division is a fascinating division. They've always said the middleweights are fast enough to really move and intrigue people, yet they're big enough men to hit and hit hard. Were you ever a middleweight fighter?
Yes, in the amateurs I was a middleweight.
Golden gloves?
Golden gloves, yes.
And the limit of the middleweight's 160 pounds.
In fact, when I won the Olympics back in 1952, I was 165.
Just over the middleweight limit.
A little bit over. They had an additional class at 157 and 165. Light middle and heavy middle.
Floyd is right now training, a very fine trainer of young fighters. Are you training any middleweights, Floyd?
Yes, I have several middleweights. I have about 6 or 7 middleweights, yes.
This might be a naive question, but a lot of fans I know would wonder, do you train a middleweight the same as you train a heavyweight?
The exact same way, yes. No difference.
Well, you were a technician in the ring. You had a pair of the quickest hands in the history of boxing, and I know you're going to really enjoy some of these films of these champs, especially the old-timers. And, of course, two of the most popular middleweight boxers of all time that put on the 3 legendary fights were Rocky Graziano and Tony Zale. Here's The Rock, the champ in 1947 and 1948.
Gennaro's a picture boxer who has the ability of a champion. Gennaro is fresh off a victory over Charlie Fusari. Graziano, in white trunks, has had 18 fights since his comeback. For 9 rounds, it's nip and tuck. And here in the 10th, Graziano pulls out all the stops. Someone told The Rock he has to knock out Gennaro to win. Graziano throws caution to the wind. Gennaro, a game opponent. The Rock turns it on. It's the Graziano of old. He won't give Gennaro punching room. Stays after his man. Hits him from all angles. A jolting left floors Gennaro as the referee steps in to stop it. Gennaro wants to continue. His corner is furious, but Rocky Graziano's fists prevail over Tony Gennaro, and the referee stops the contest in the 10th round.
Rocky, how do you feel about being the champion?
Oh, I feel great about being a champion. And I think I'll make a real worthy champion.
Were you seriously hurt at any time during the fight?
Yes, I was. My eyes were in very bad shape. They were almost completely closed. And if it wasn't for my trainer, Whitey Bimstein, cut my eye in the 4th round, I probably wouldn't be able to continue. I'd like to fight Tony Gazelle again and give him another chance to even up the score. You know, 2 fights and then the last one make it 3, make sure he's a real champion.
Champion Graziano is in white striped trunks. This is the 3rd of a series of sensational fights between these two champions. Zale lands 2 crashing left hooks and sends Graziano to the canvas. This is typical of their 2 previous meetings. In that first fight, after taking a tremendous beating from Graziano, champion Zale gathered himself and, in an unbelievable comeback, knocked out Rocky in the 6th round. But 10 months later, in their second fight, it was Zale who won the first 5 rounds handily. But suddenly, challenger Graziano came on with a tremendous attack to capture the middleweight championship of the world when the referee stepped in and stopped the fight. Now it's Zale, the challenger, moving in with tremendous punches. He's trying to knock out Graziano here in the first round. The referee has to step in and separate the 2 men as the bell sounds to end this sensational opening round. Round 2 was fairly even. Here going into round 3, the challenger Tony Zale seems like he has recaptured his youth, landing all types of smashing punches. He corners Graziano on the ropes, pounding away with both hands. He lands murderous combinations and gets Graziano in real trouble. With a right to the body, a smashing left to the jaw, he floors Graziano for the 2nd time. And the champion, wearily, with the help of the ropes, drags himself to a standing position. Zale moves in, determined to finish it here in round 3. He stays on top of Graziano, landing left and right-hand uppercuts to the jaw. As Graziano staggers backwards, Zale advances confidently, and with a tremendous right to the body and pulverizing left hook to the jaw, he knocks out Graziano and regains his cherished title of middleweight champion of the world. In spectacular fashion, Tony Zale once again rules the tough middleweight division.
Floyd, those who saw the 3 Graziano-Zale fights in person, millions have seen them since on film, will see them in the future, regard those 3 fights as 3 of the greatest fights in boxing history. What do you think?
I would say they were 3 of the most exciting fights of history, yes.
You very seldom get 2 dynamite punchers going all out against each other in the ring the way Zale and Graziano did.
Yes, I would say so.
What did you think of them as fighters?
Well, it seemed to me that Zale was a bit faster with his hands than Rocky. And also, I think his defense was a little better. Rocky seemed a little open. He held his hands somewhat low. He didn't do much bobbing and weaving. And his defense seemed more like his offense, if you know what I mean. In other words, in order to be offensive, in order to have a defense, he was more offensive.
It's the old gag, like in football, the best defense is the best offense.
Right.
Do you ever visit with him? Do you ever talk to him in recent years?
Yes, I've seen Rocky several times. We appear at dinners together. In fact, we flew on the same plane when we did the roast for Cassius Clay a couple of years ago. I see him often.
Here's a fellow now, our next middleweight champ, who scored 66 KOs in 113 fights, and he was Marcel Cerdan.
French sailor Marcel Cerdan, facing the camera, is scoring heavily here in round 1 against Sergeant Ralph Barnley of the United States Army. Barnley comes storming back with a volley of punches which are effectively blocked by Cerdan. Cerdan floors Barnley with a hard right uppercut. Cerdan moves to a neutral corner, and the referee picks up the count. Barnley rises at the count of 9, and Cerdan moves in to end it. Marcel has Barnley on the ropes, and he lands a flurry of punches that drop Barnley for the second time. Reviewing that action in slow motion, we see Sergeant Ralph Barnley pouring it on, bringing the fight to the Frenchman Marcel Cerdan. This is a tremendous effort, but Marcel is blocking all those bombs. Cerdan comes back on the attack and sets up a beautifully timed, crisp uppercut that floors Barnley. Ralph takes advantage of the 9 count and then rises, hoping to turn the tide. Marcel Cerdan moves in, firing several deadly shots to the head. Barnley is helpless on the ropes as Cerdan pounds away at will. The French battle floors his man once again. This time it's all over as Barnley takes the full count. Marcel Cerdan wins the Inter-Allied Middleweight Championship and shows the boxing world the great skill, which will take him all the way to the World Middleweight Championship 3 years later.
January 26, 1948, Marcel Cerdan takes on tough Giovanni Manca in Paris. Cerdan is wearing the dark trunks with white stripe. Manca goes down from a hard right. The referee picks up the count, and Manca is up at the count of 3. Marcel goes to work once again. Another crisp right, and Manca goes down. The referee doesn't call it a knockdown, though, and the action continues. Marcel Cerdan facing camera. Cerdan won the European middleweight title just last year with a crushing first-round knockout of Leon Coquet. Marcel's title is on the line tonight against a very determined Giovanni Manca. In his last fight just 3 months ago, Marcel took a close, tough 10-round decision from Anton Radic in Chicago. Cerdan throws in ripping punches. Marcel comes out for round 2, looking for that one big knockout punch. A dynamite right by Marcel Cerdan, and Manca goes down. Giovanni Manca listening to the count. He's up at 7. A pulverizing right to the jaw, and Manca goes down again. That's it. It's the end of the fight in round 2. European middleweight champion Marcel Cerdan scores a convincing second-round knockout over a game Giovanni Manca to retain his European title. Very happy Marcel Cerdan. It's February 9th, 1948. Marcel Cerdan anxiously awaiting the start of his European title fight with Gene Wolzak. Marcel Cerdan won rounds 1 through 3 with his aggressive punching style. Here in round 4, Marcel is definitely ahead in the scoring. Cerdan, to the right of your screen, fought just 2 weeks ago. Marcel KO'd Giovanni Manca to retain his European middleweight title. Marcel all over Gene Wolzak. Marcel Cerdan throwing bombs here in round 4. Cerdan with ripping punches here in the 4th round. And Wolzak goes down. Cerdan goes to a neutral corner as the referee picks up the count. That's it. Cerdan affectionately hugs Gene. Marcel Cerdan scores a fourth-round knockout over Gene Walczak in Paris to retain his European middleweight title. Marcel's aggressiveness was just too much for the game Walczak. It's March 25th, 1948. Marcel Cerdan takes on Lucien Krocek in Paris. In rounds 2 through 9, Cerdan built up a slim lead, scoring with accurate punches to the body. It seems that Lucien's southpaw stance doesn't seem to bother the dynamite-punching Marcel Cerdan here towards the end of the fight. This is Marcel's fourth fight this year. Cerdan has already KO'd Giovanni Manca, Gene Walczak, and Laverne Roach. Cerdan's manager, Lucien Rupp, is already thinking ahead to Marcel's expected match with world middleweight champion Tony Zale. Both men fighting well on the inside. The referee separates the two fighters. There's the bell, ending the fight. Marcel Cerdan is awarded a tough 10-round decision over Lucien Krocek in Paris. Marcel is seen here arriving in the United States for the official signing with middleweight champion Tony Zale. Here's Tony at the signing. Let's listen in.
Well, boys, it's time for you to put your signatures on these contracts.
Je tiens à remercier Tony Zale de m'avoir donné cette chance de disputer le championnat du monde. Et si je gagne, j'espère être un grand champion comme lui.
What did he say?
He said, Tony, that he thanks you very, very kindly for giving him this opportunity to fight for your title. And he further answered that if he should win it, he hopes that he'll be the great champion you are.
Thank you, Marcel. That's good enough for me.
The two men shake hands, but will come out fighting later. In preparation for the fight, Marcel trains here with the Orchid Man, the great Georges Carpentier, former world light heavyweight champion. It's the night of the fight, September 21st, 1948. Cerdan in white trunks has built up a commanding lead through the first 10 rounds with damaging body blows. Middleweight champion Tony Zale in dark trunks has taken a lot of punishment, but the game champion is still going out 100%. Cerdan definitely the stronger of the two fighters here near the end of the 11th round. Referee Paul Cavalier separates the two men. A tremendous left hook by challenger Marcel Cerdan. Zale in desperate trouble. Champion Tony Zale with back to camera. Cerdan pouring it on as the bell rings, ending the round. The gallant Tony Zale has taken a terrible beating. His cornermen try to revive Tony. Zale is unable to answer the bell for the 12th round. Marcel Cerdan scores a crushing 12th round knockout of Tony Zale in Jersey City and becomes the new middleweight champion of the world.
Floyd, it's interesting in this series, Boxing's Greatest Champions. We've gone all the way back into the late 1800s with films. And the old-time fighters had their hands down all the time. And as the years go by, you can see them coming up and up, even Zale and Graziano. But Cerdan kept his hands up, and they say that's why he was never injured seriously.
Well, I would say it surely helped quite a bit. As you can see, he was a very, very good puncher, a very strong fighter. He kept his hands high, which in more modern days, now you see most fighters keep their hands high. So I would say that could have been the changing of an era.
Is that how you're teaching your young fighters to keep your hands up?
Keep their hands high, yes.
A sad thing, Cerdan won the title you saw in that bout with Zale. He lost it to Jake LaMotta, and then on the flight in the return match to go back and meet LaMotta, he lost his life in a plane crash in the Azores, but he was quite a middleweight champ, Marcel Cerdan. Well, I think the nickname tells it all, Floyd, about this next man. They called him the Michigan Assassin. Stanley Ketchel, one of the most famous fighters of all time. He was a middleweight champ, and yet, in 1909, he fought Jack Johnson for the heavyweight championship, and he gave up 75 pounds in doing so. Here is Stanley Ketchel.
Middleweight title holder Stanley Ketchel is in the dark trunks. Challenger Billy Papke is wearing the lighter abbreviated shorts. This is the fourth meeting between these two great middleweights. Stanley Ketchel in the darker trunks took a 10-round non-title decision from Papke in their first meeting in June of 1908, and then 3 months later lost his middleweight title to Papke by a 12th round knockout. In their last meeting 8 months ago, Ketchel regained the precious crown by scoring a sensational 11th round knockout over the tough Billy Papke in San Francisco. There's the bell ending the round, and surprisingly, both men exchange an affectionate tap. Champion Stanley Ketchel won rounds 18 and 19. Here in the 20th and final round, the champion is definitely ahead in the scoring. If Ketchel, in dark trunks, successfully defends his world middleweight title today, he has already been scheduled to meet heavyweight champion Jack Johnson for the world heavyweight title. Stanley would be giving away over 50 pounds in that one. Ketchel working in close, ripping lefts to the body. Here at the conclusion of this 20th and final round, world middleweight champion Stanley Ketchel scores a unanimous decision over former champion Billy Papke and retains the world middleweight championship.
Called the Michigan Assassin and often ranked as the greatest middleweight ever, Stanley Ketchel decided he was the man to dispose of Jack Johnson.
It's round 5 of this scheduled heavyweight championship contest. And middleweight champion Stanley Ketchel, to your left, has been surprising everyone. He's not only taking on the most feared heavyweight in the last 20 years, but he's giving an excellent account of himself. Ketchel is giving away 5 inches in height and 41 pounds in weight to the man who's considered to be the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, Jack Johnson. Watch Ketchel throw a haymaker left while Johnson nimbly steps back, avoiding the punch. Johnson is reputed to be the finest defensive fighter in the history of boxing. Ketchel will leap in with a hard left, and Johnson will counter with a jolting right, which nearly floors Ketchel. Johnson is a superb counterpuncher, and Ketchel is learning it the hard way. Stanley Ketchel is only 5 feet 8 inches tall, but he stated many times that there's no man in the world he feels he can beat, regardless of size. As Ketchel charges in, once again missing a left, Johnson rushes forward with a smashing left to the body. Johnson has every conceivable physical advantage over the challenger, and it's beginning to pay off. At the end of round 5, Johnson has a clear advantage over the middleweight champion of the world, Stanley Ketchel. In round 6 through 11, Johnson's clever defense kept Ketchel missing badly. Watch closely as Ketchel lands a tremendous right to the jaw and floors Johnson. The champion will take a count of 7 and then get to his feet. As Ketchel moves in to finish the job, Johnson will land a blistering right hand to the jaw, knocking Ketchel cold. Johnson trips over the fallen Ketchel and then tries to dislodge 2 of Ketchel's teeth embedded in his right-hand glove. Jack Johnson successfully defends his heavyweight championship against middleweight champion Stanley Ketchel, October 16th, 1909 in Colma, California.
Floyd Ketchel was so tough, he knocked out 46 of his 61 opponents. But that was something to get into the ring and give up 75 pounds. When he knocked Jack Johnson down, I think a few seconds later, Johnson got up, knocked him out, and won the bout.
Right. Well, I would say a lot of heart, and a very strong body to back it up.
How about the old roundhouse punches of those days, when instead of hitting straight ahead, they would come in swinging wide?
Well, if you notice from the films that we've watched, most of the punches, most fellas, most people, fighters, threw their punches from that position. But nowadays, if you'll notice, all punches are mostly straight. Left jab, right hands, a left hook. Of course, that's a round punch, but most of the punches nowadays are straight punches.
You ever talk to any fellas, any old-timers ever tell you about Stanley Ketchel?
I've heard a lot about him, yes.
The legend lives on. Here's a fellow that had the legend of being called the Bronx Bull, very tough man. Fought Ray Robinson 6 times in his career, no easy task. Jake LaMotta.
Jake LaMotta defends his middleweight championship against Laurent O'Teal. The title is on the line, but LaMotta is far behind on points going into the 15th and final round. LaMotta has won only 4 rounds up to this point in a bruising fight. LaMotta appears to be very tired, sagging against the ropes. He seems ripe for a KO. But is LaMotta playing possum? O'Teal, a good boxer-puncher, has beaten LaMotta before. Back in 1949, the Frenchman took a 10-round decision, and tonight only has to last the round, and he will be crowned the new middleweight champion. But when the overconfident O'Teal moves in for the finish, Jake LaMotta suddenly opens up. O'Teal knows he's been fooled and tries to hold and run, but LaMotta, always devastating inside, won't let him get away. It's LaMotta to the body and to the head. Against the ropes, O'Teal is in trouble. O'Teal has knocked out some good men, such as Steve Belois and Charlie Zivic, but tonight LaMotta has come on. Both men blaze away. It's a real Donnybrook. But LaMotta, rallying from the brink of defeat, knocks O'Teal down and almost through the ropes. And LaMotta scores a dramatic knockout over the very capable Laurent O'Teal. It's Jake LaMotta, one of the greatest crowd pleasers of all time, winner and still middleweight champion of the world.
Jake LaMotta, 5'8", fought at 159, just a pound under the limit, and he really earned that nickname, the Bronx Bull, Floyd.
Yes, he did. He was some fighter. As you can see, he was extremely aggressive. Most of the people he fought had to think in terms of mainly defense because he came to fight and he fought. In fact, I believe he's the only man at that time when Sugar Ray Robinson was in his primes to beat Sugar Ray in his primes.
What do you do against a fight? He was a bull in the ring. He rushed you. He was charging all the time. How would you fight a man like that?
Well, you'd have to move the way Cassius Clay used to move to get out of the way, sidestep and things like that. Of course, when you fight that kind of a fight, you're going to be under a tremendous amount of pressure, and you got to be in tremendous condition and be able to really move for the amount, if it's a 10-rounder or a 15-rounder, because if you ever get tired, forget about it.
Now, here to me, Floyd is one of the most intriguing men in the history of boxing. First of all, he had a colorful nickname, the Toy Bulldog, and he was a real crowd pleaser. Mickey Walker, who held the welterweight championship, then the middleweight championship. He left the middleweight division and twice challenged for the light heavyweight title, and he fought ranking heavyweight fighters of his day and would give up 50 to 75 pounds in doing so. One of boxing's greatest, the Toy Bulldog, Mickey Walker.
Walker, with his back to us, loses no time as he rushes Tommy Milligan with lefts and rights and sends him to the canvas. Milligan is the British Empire middleweight champion, out to capture Mickey Walker's crown as middleweight champion of the world. Milligan's up, and Mickey Walker, the Toy Bulldog, closes in with lefts and rights. Walker likes to move in close, soften up his man on the inside, then move away and throw barrages. Milligan fires to the head and body. Earlier, he beat Ted Kid Lewis in 20 rounds, a feat achieved by very few men over a period of 25 years. The purse tonight, $100,000, winner take all. Both men working on the inside. Two good middleweights punching toe-to-toe. Walker to become one of the greatest welterweights and middleweights in the history of the division. All right, drops Milligan. Walker rushes in to follow through. He has great boxing ability, the punching strength of a heavyweight, the speed of a lightweight. That combination makes him one of the most formidable fighters of all time. Now watch a left-right combination by Walker. Drop Milligan again. And it's all over. Another amazing victory for Mickey Walker.
Mickey Walker, a fighter whom many boxing experts have ranked as the greatest middleweight in the entire history of boxing. Mickey has decided to move up on the heavyweight division. He's only 5 foot 7 inches tall and weighs 167 pounds. Compared to the 200-pound giants in the heavyweight division, Mickey is at a distinct disadvantage. But this is no ordinary middleweight. This is the fighter they've nicknamed the Toy Bulldog. This is the fighter who rocketed through the welterweight and middleweight division as champion of the world. Let's take a look at how Mickey combines his training with the fun of the Charleston. It certainly isn't difficult to distinguish Walker from Sharkey. There's half a head difference between the two. Newspaper reporters said that Walker would look puny next to Sharkey, but not one of them said he didn't have a chance. Everyone knows not to underestimate this superb little fighter. Sharkey comes in and gets hit with a short right by Walker. Jack grabs hold. Watch this left and jolting right by Mickey. It was punches like that which won 2 world's titles for Walker. Sharkey jabs. He wants to keep Walker off balance with that long left. Watch closely as Walker catches Sharkey with a beautiful uppercut. Mickey will bull Sharkey into the ropes and land a torrent of tremendous punches. This fearless little bundle of dynamite is actually taking the play away from Sharkey. You have to see it to believe it. As the final bell rings, the two men affectionately congratulate each other on a tremendous performance. Announcer Joe Humphreys raises both arms, signifying to the crowd that this fight has ended in a draw. Little Mickey Walker holds heavyweight champion-to-be Jack Sharkey to a 15-round draw in one of the greatest fights of the century.
Well, Floyd Mickey Walker must have really been something. He gave up 50 pounds to Jack Sharkey, fought him to a draw in that fight, and 4 weeks later, Sharkey won the heavyweight championship.
That was something. That's most unusual.
Now, you were a commissioner of the New York Boxing Association. You wouldn't allow a fight like that to happen nowadays, would you?
Nowadays, I don't believe any commissioner in any state would allow something like that. No, not nowadays.
Speaking of Sharkey, you know, he retired in New Hampshire. He was a great friend of Ted Williams, the Red Sox baseball player, and an outstanding fly fisherman. I fished with him. And one man he always talked a lot about was Mickey Walker. He really admired him as a man and as a fighter. Now, I think this next man from Utah, tough tough is the best way you can describe him, Gene Fullmer.
Fullmer in white trunks is an aggressive and well-conditioned fighter. Maselli, a professional for 2 years, has a devastating left hook. Fullmer batters Maselli to the canvas here in round one. Maselli takes the mandatory count. Now it's Fullmer trying to finish it quickly. Maselli, a very tired boy. Fullmer, a rough customer, has an unorthodox style that is difficult to defend against. Maselli goes down from a hard right to the body. Maselli hangs on to Fullmer, attempting to regain his senses. And at the end of the round, walks wearily to his corner. Here in round two, Maselli tries to rally. Maselli defeated Fullmer's younger brother, Jay, in 3 rounds 5 months before this fight. This fight shows every sign of being a grudge match. Fullmer won't let up, carrying the fight to Maselli, but Maselli punches back furiously. Now Fullmer suddenly explodes a wicked right, and Maselli goes down. Gene Fullmer, on the road back to the middleweight championship, knocks out Joe Maselli. And 1 year later, Fullmer will regain the world title. Gene Fullmer in the white trunks and challenger Benny Perret in black. Middleweight champion Gene Fullmer seems to be in complete control. Perret really taking it from Fullmer. Goes down from a hail of punches. Again, Benny Perret, who never knew the word quit, is up and ready to go back into action. Now Gene Fullmer works Perret against the ropes, wearing him down with accurate punches. Benny Perret trying to defend against the bombs of Fullmer, goes down again. Fullmer gets in with a whistling right hand, and Perret goes down. It's all over. This slow motion of the action shows that the bombs that Gene Fullmer was throwing really took their toll. Perret in no condition to continue. The referee screaming out the count. Welterweight champion Benny "Kid" Perret gave his all, but middleweight champion Gene Fullmer retains his title and knocks Perret out in 10 rounds in Las Vegas, Nevada.
A lot of people couldn't understand how Fullmer could win the middleweight title. They said he was crude and awkward in the ring. Describe his style.
Well, I would say Gene Fullmer was about the most awkward fighter I have ever seen fight. One would think that he couldn't fight simply because he did everything wrong. But simply by doing everything wrong, it would work out right. What I mean by that is this. As he would go into a position to throw a left hook, which one would think would be impossible to throw anything else but a left hook, he would throw a right hand. So to describe that kind of a guy is, you know, anything that you're prepared for, he never throws. He throws just the opposite.
You're always getting what you didn't expect from him.
Right, right.
He was a contemporary of yours, Fullmer, and I guess tough and awkward and crude, but effective is the real way to describe him.
Right. And on top of that, he could punch, and he was very, very strong.
This next man, Dick Tiger, was not only a middleweight champion, but he also won the light heavyweight championship of the world. And let's watch Dick Tiger in action.
Champion Gene Fullmer is wearing white trunks. Dick Tiger is wearing the black. Gene won the world middleweight title in January of 1957 when he took a 15-round decision from the great Sugar Ray Robinson in New York. After losing the title 6 months later to Robinson, Fulmer regained the title in 1960 when he KO'd the hard-hitting Carmen Basilio in 14 rounds at San Francisco. Two vicious punching middleweights in there for the world title. No feeling each other out here in round one. Challenger Dick Tiger in black trunks pouring it on. Ripping punches by challenger Dick Tiger. Going into the 15th and final round, it's all Tiger now. Dick has taken complete control. And there's the bell ending the fight. The decision goes to Dick Tiger, and Dick becomes the new world middleweight champion. Tiger's fans are elated as Dick waves to the crowd.
Floyd, the Tiger-Fulmer fight of 1962 was really something, wasn't it?
Yes, that was. I would say it was the fight of the year, that year.
What did you know about Dick Tiger?
Well, I knew he was a very determined fighter, and the same as Gene Fulmer. And both men could punch. Both men were very strong, and it became a matter of will. Of course, Dick Tiger won, but Gene Fulmer, he really put up some fight.
So that's a big thing, in the ring, determination, refusing to yield.
Yeah, right.
Well, here's this next man. You hear the cliche, pound for pound. I think it was really invented for Sugar Ray Robinson. Look at the years that he won the middleweight crown. Everybody says, not everybody, but I think most people, pound for pound, the greatest fighter that ever lived. He was a Golden Glove champ back in 1939 and 40. Sugar Ray Robinson, beauty in action.
Robinson in white trunks and LaMotta have fought 5 times before, and LaMotta won only one of those fights. LaMotta is determined to hold on to his title, and here in round 11 tries to end it. Backing Robinson against the ropes, he opens up. Now LaMotta really pours it on. Robinson getting hit from all angles, but the gallant welterweight champion can take it as well as give it. He takes everything LaMotta can throw, and then, showing why he's one of the greatest fighters of all time, comes back punching furiously. These are two great champions at their fighting best. We now go to round 13. It's Robinson, after weathering that terrific barrage of punches, coming on to take charge. LaMotta seems to be arm-weary. He's tired, and Robinson, sensing this, opens up. Robinson snaps vicious jabs, follows with solid lefts and rights to the body and head. Robinson here in round 13 is going to land the hardest punches of the fight thus far. Stinging combinations with both hands will have the champion practically helpless. At this point in his career, LaMotta had never been knocked off his feet, but we don't know what's keeping him up. The referee wisely stops the contest when LaMotta is unable to defend himself. Sugar Ray Robinson, rallying from the brink of defeat, wins the middleweight championship of the world from a courageous Jake LaMotta. As we go into round 3, we see Robinson in the white trunks giving a dazzling display of boxing skill. But Graziano comes right back swinging. Robinson gets in another left hook, but Graziano just shrugs it off and plows forward. This is how the bout has gone in the first 2 rounds, a truly classic struggle between a great boxer and a rugged slugger. For Graziano, this bout could represent the successful end to a long comeback trail. He's fought and won 21 straight bouts since losing his title to Tony Zale, the same Zale he had KO'd to win the championship. Robinson comes on with a fantastic combination, but Graziano comes right back with a right that floors Robinson in 1 count. Rocky comes boring in after Sugar Ray, who gives ground grudgingly. The Sugar Man has only lost 2 of 133 fights, and those 2 were to men who later became middleweight champions, Jake LaMotta and Dick Turpin. Robinson decisively defeated both men in return bouts. Robinson has been described as the greatest fighter pound for pound in the history of the ring, but right now he's backing away. Robinson neatly slips a Graziano punch and then gets in a solid right. Now watch Sugar Ray explode. A right hand sends Graziano's mouth boots flying, and Rocky goes down. Graziano flexes his legs, trying to get some life into those bulky underpinnings. It's all over. That sudden burst by Sugar Ray Robinson gives him a big KO victory over another of the modern ring greats.
Champion Gene Fullmer is ahead on points here in the 5th round. Timed ripping left hook by Robinson. That crushing punch was delivered like a bolt of lightning. Fullmer is knocked out for the first time in his career. Here's a ringside look at that devastating left hook. There it is. Sugar Ray Robinson regains the middleweight title for the 4th time with a crushing knockout.
109 knockouts, 202 fights, a 25-year career. Didn't you and Ray Robinson train at the same camp at one time?
Yes, we did, Greenwood Lake.
Did you ever talk to him about boxing, try and get some tips from him?
No, we talked, but we never... Fighters don't talk about boxing.
They don't?
Believe it or not, no.
You never match techniques? You never talk skills or methods, how you do it?
No, we don't. I have known a lot of fighters throughout my career. Sparring partners, champions, and other fighters. We never talk boxing.
You just get in the ring and fight.
Right.
Is it true that George Gainsford, Robinson's manager, came to your manager, Gus Amato, when you were the heavyweight champ, and tried to get a matchup between Robinson and you?
Yes, that is true.
And is it true that Amato said, look, I don't want to see your man dead, Ray Robinson, so I'm not going to let him fight my man, Floyd Patterson. Is that what he told him?
Well, that's what Gus told me. He told him. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, Robinson's still going, and do you think he was, pound for pound, the greatest fighter that ever lived?
In my opinion, Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest pound for pound all-around fighter that ever lived. Now, what I mean by that is this. There were other fighters that could punch harder. There were other fighters that could perhaps move a little faster. But as far as able to do everything, punch, take a punch, move, reflexes, bob and weave, block, everything. So I would say he was in my opinion, he was the best pound-for-pound fighter that ever lived.
Good capsule description. All right, here's the next man. He was a toughie, too. Freddie Steele. He was the champ there in the 30s, 1936-38 in the middleweight division.
In the first round, and Steele, in the striped trunks, has been content to simply feel out Lesnovich. But he'll see an opening and land a left hook and a follow-up sledgehammer right. Lesnovich goes down like a tree. The referee is shouting out the count to the fallen fighter. He's up with the count of 9, and Steele goes right back to work. Another right sends Lesnovich to one knee, but he's up again, and Steele starts raining punches on the floundering fighter. Steele gets in an overhand right, and Lesnovich goes down for the 3rd time. At this point in his young career, Gus Lesnovich had won 29 of 30 professional fights, but it seems now that only a miracle can save him from being knocked out. Steele won the middleweight championship from Babe Briscoe only 4 months prior to this fight. He's only lost 2 fights out of a total of 81 bouts, and almost half of his victims have been knocked out. Lesnovich's right eye is cut, and Steele is going after it. The eye is bleeding badly, and the referee is watching him closely to see if he should stop the fight. A towel is thrown into the ring from Lesnovich's corner. Gus Lesnovich will go on to win the world light heavyweight crown 5 years later. But tonight is all Steele's as he wins by a big 2-round knockout.
Freddie Steele appeared to have a good left hook, Floyd.
A good short left hook, yeah.
Tough fighter. Did you hear much about him?
Well, I did hear quite a bit about him. He was tough, good left hooker. He was mainly known for his left hook.
All right, here's a fighter of the modern vintage, Carlos Monzon. Champion, look at that. 8 years, 6 feet tall for a middleweight, fought at 159. A retired, undefeated middleweight champ. He defended his title 14 times. One of the very best, Carlos Monzon.
Champion Benvenuti in dark trunks has his hands full with his tough, hard-punching challenger. Monzon in white trunks has not lost a fight in 6 years. He wants that middleweight title. There's the bell ending round 11. Here in round 12, Benvenuti in dark trunks is trying to find a way to slow down this raging challenger. Monzon in white trunks appears stronger than Benvenuti at this point. The challenger has been the aggressor and has not let up for a moment. Benvenuti appears hurt. Monzon pursuing Benvenuti across the ring. An explosive right drops the champion. Let's take another look at that tremendous right. There it is. And now, in slow motion, is that perfectly timed punch that drops world middleweight champion Nino Benvenuti here in round 12. It's all over. Carlos Monzon scores a sudden dramatic 12th round knockout over Nino Benvenuti and becomes the new middleweight champion of the world. Here in round 6, Monzon in dark trunks has built up a slight lead in the scoring. Challenger Jose Napoles in red is trying to fend off the hard-punching middleweight title holder. Middleweight champion Monzon is exactly 6 foot tall, which gives him an enormous reach advantage over the 5 foot 7 inch Jose Napoles. Monzon is known as a deadly right-hand puncher, while welterweight champion Jose Napoles is considered a master boxer puncher. Monzon throwing bombs in there. Napoles is hurt. It's all Monzon here in round 6. Can Napoles last the round out?
Jose Napoles cannot answer the bell for the 7th round. In this battle of champions, Carlos Monzon retains the middleweight championship of the world. Here in round 8, Monzon, in red striped trunks, is ahead on points. Licata is wearing the white stripe. A jolting right hand sends Licata to the canvas. Referee Tony Perez sends the champion to a neutral corner and picks up the count. Licata is up at the count of 5. Monzon moves in to finish it here in round 8. Carlos Monzon all over challenger Tony Licata. In round 9, Monzon continued confidently as the aggressor. Here in round 10, he is definitely taking command. A crushing right drops Licata for the 2nd time in the fight. Licata is dazed and hurt as he takes the mandatory 8 count from referee Tony Perez. Monzon moves in to finish it. Monzon wants to end it here and now. Tony Licata trying desperately to defend himself against this dynamite punching champion. A tremendous combination sends Licata to the canvas for the 3rd time, and the referee wisely ends the contest. Carlos Monzon scores a 10th round knockout over a game Tony Licata and successfully defends his middleweight crown.
Carlos Monzon, Floyd, fought 101 fights, never was stopped, and KO'd over half of his opponents. He was a tough cookie. He retired as the middleweight champ, undefeated.
Yes, he was. He was 6 feet tall, which is most unusual for a middleweight. He had long arms, and he knew how to use his reach. He was able to use a good left jab, a good straight right, being able to reach his opponent when his opponent couldn't reach him. And also, he moved quite well.
Is height important to a boxer?
Height is very important to a boxer if he knows how to use it.
How many know how to do it?
Well, outside of very few. Outside of Monzon and Cassius Clay, I would say there are very few who know how to use your reach.
Well, we've gone back with some rare film into the early 1900s, and we've looked at all the great middleweight champs along the line now, and it's time for you, Floyd Patterson, a former heavyweight champion, to give us your opinion of the greatest middleweight boxer of all time. Who do you think?
Well, I've watched them all. I've taken each one into consideration. And as I said earlier, I picked Sugar Ray Robinson simply because he was the best all-around fighter I've ever seen. He threw tremendous combinations. He could take a punch. He could punch himself. He moved very, very well. I've never seen so much in one person as I see in Sugar Ray Robinson.
Well, you'd be much more qualified than I would to pick the best middleweight fighter of all time, but I'd have to go with you, Floyd, and I think most people would. Sugar Ray Robinson, and there have been some fantastic fighters in this very interesting division, the middleweight division. Sugar Ray Robinson would be my pick as the greatest middleweight of all time. Floyd, thanks very much for being with us today.